Alright, hello, welcome to another It's About Time video. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020, and my question as the focus for this video is, why Malaysia? Now Matt, you've been to 20 plus countries. What makes Malaysia the one that you would go to, and without much of a plan either? So there are a lot of reasons, like to any major decision in life, duh. But what it boils down to was the connectedness and also the opportunity to make more connections while I'm here. So, of course, yes, I'll explain. The main way to get connected is through talking. No, I don't speak the national language, which is called Bahasa Melayu, which literally translates to language Malay, or flip it around, Malay language. But luckily, there's still a heavy influence of English left over from British colonization, along with British universities still operating here. Also, it's not uncommon for Malaysians to study abroad, in the UK primarily, but also there are some programs, and also the US sponsors some Malaysians to go and study for a month or two or a whole semester in the US, which I've met a couple people who have done so. Uh, and going off of languages, Malaysia is super diverse compared to most individual countries. America is pretty diverse too, but not talking about that one. Around 50% are considered ethnic Malays, or call themselves ethnic Malays, which are basically descendants of native to the Austronesian region, which, if you break it down, it's Indonesia and Australia, and then, of course, the Malaysia Peninsular, and then over in Brunei, so the eastern Malaysia, that area, which is also connected to Indonesia. So about 50% of Malaysia's population belongs to that native group. So, and then about 23% are Chinese Malaysian. So, of course, Malaysians that are of Chinese descent, you can figure that out. About 7% Indian, 12% other or mixed, and then there's the 8% of non-citizen residents. So, reminds me slightly of home in America, where you never really know if someone is just visiting from another country or they could be eighth generation local. So, until you actually talk to them and hear about their life, do you really figure that out? I'm pretty confident in saying the average Malaysian, from the experiences and from the people I have met, knows three languages fluently, like at least three languages, if not more. The Chinese, for example, the Chinese Malaysian kids at the after-school program I'm volunteering with right now has classes of English, Bahasa Melayu, and Chinese. Their math is actually with Chinese instruction, so it's more of a Chinese school. Uh, but of course, they're still learning Bahasa Melayu and English. And they're 7 to 9 years old, like I've said before. So definitely starting younger than most Americans learning another language. And when we're learning another language in America, we call it learning a foreign language because it's foreign. Here, it's like it's not really a foreign language. Like 23%, around 23% speak some form of Chinese, so it's not too foreign. But that's a whole nother video, and I could talk about the differences between America, and that would be at least more than two videos. But of course, for another time. So in May 2019, my team and I, during the last couple months of the World Race program, spent 3 weeks of our Malaysia month in a city called Ipoh. It's on the west coast of the western part of Malaysia, so the peninsular, the peninsula, that's the part of Malaysia that's attached to or connected to Singapore and Thailand. Almost forgot it for a second. So the city of Ipoh is about 2.5 hours north of KL, where I am currently, and we partnered with a sports organization called Ipoh Bug. Kind of funny. Bug. There's a little acronym, two-way acronym for that, which I can tell you about some other time. We played ultimate frisbee and soccer nearly every day, so it was great. I loved it, of course. And being able to bond over sports is great when there is a language barrier, but it's even better when there isn't a language barrier. So, differing than some countries I have visited, smartphones, Wi Fi, data coverage, completely in surplus over here and reasonable, affordable. You can get basic plans from 7-Eleven. Of course, you can do that in the US too, but it's not a common practice in the US. It's common here, and it's what I've been doing for, gosh, 7 months now. Been doing re-upping, paying 7-Eleven to just give me a top-up code, and then I punch it into my phone and got another month of unlimited WhatsApp and 6 gigs roaming, and a local number, and it works great. Texts, calls, it's been great and had plenty of coverage. Of course, there's areas where there's not as good coverage, but that's with anything. And then so along those lines, connecting with the kids in Ipoh, which we're playing sports with, all of them got smartphones. All of those youngins got the social media. So of course, staying connected through those platforms while I was back in America really made me feel like I was missing out. Not really, but it showed me the opportunities and people that I could hang with while I'm here. And it also helped ease my mom's worries about wanting me to, or about me only being reachable when I had Wi-Fi, which sometimes during the world race it was very limited in most of the countries we were in. But of course, here in Malaysia, Wi-Fi is everywhere. Wi-Fi is free, fast. But then also I've got my data coverage, so it's been completely great. I've done video calls over data, and it's reasonable. It's great. It's better than a lot of the connections I get in America. So another point, food. With culture, with diverse culture, there's going to be food involved, and connecting with people over food. Duh. It's wired into us as humans, honestly. So going out for food at any time was in Ipoh completely normal, and honestly, it's normal way of life here. Some shops actually only open late at night and then serve till they sell out for the night/early morning. So very much a fusion, and yes, there is rice, but there's so much more than just rice. Like, I didn't know there were so many different ways to prepare it. I mean, it makes sense when it's one of the main things you eat, but man, I got so used to just plain old rice. It's unreal here. So I touched on language, diversity, data/Wi-Fi, food. Kind of see how it all comes back to connecting with people. Yeah, so back to that trip in May 2019. During that last week, so we were here for 4 weeks, give or take a couple days. That last week of only half of our team that was in Ipoh, we went up to a place called Alostar, which was about 6 hours north of Ipoh, so about 8.5 hours north of KL. So we stayed with a pastor there. Amazing man, and I could go into so much detail about that. But that's a whole nother video. Anyways, we got the pleasure to meet his son as well, 21-year-old kid. His name's Nat. I call him kid because, I don't know, a couple years difference is just funny. I don't know, I mess with him a lot, so he's kind of like a little brother that I never had, little Malaysian brother. He's not little, he's my size, so it's really funny, and he could be watching this right now, and he's probably about to send me a message. But honestly, he could have passed as American. The first time I talked to him, he came like while we were like our team was volunteering somewhere, and then he connected with his dad, and then they picked us up together, and I'm like, oh, how do you know Pastor? And he's like, dude, he's my dad. And I'm just like, oh, Matt, so embarrassing to myself. So his dad's Indian, Malaysian, and his mom is Chinese, Malaysian. So he was 21 at the time, as I said, and most of our generation, here in Malaysia is influenced by Western/American culture. So to me, it seriously sounded like he had the West Coast American accent. And of course, people will debate that West Coast Americans don't have an accent. Whatever. That's we can discuss that later. He also did Youth with a Mission, or YWAM, if you know of it. It's another missionary program. So there's that. He lived and still lives in KL. So once again, adding to the connections here. During that trip in May 2019, as I keep prefacing, whatever, we left that northern city, Alistar, to go to KL in order to fly out to Indonesia for the last month of our program. So, of course, Nat picked us up from the bus station after our overnight trip, let us crash at his place, and then explore KL without having to lug all our stuff around, which was a huge blessing. And getting to experience another Malaysian city, so that's 3 in total: Ipoh, Alostar, and KL. Absolutely wonderful, exciting, but there was still so much more in my mind that like I wanted to see and experience. You know, there's a bunch of islands. There's Langkawi, Penang, Tioman, Redang, Perhentian, and then there's a whole nother part of Malaysia that's connected to Indonesia, closer to Philippines, that area. So it's called Eastern Malaysia, and it's got 2 states. It's a little more rural, and there's more like jungle trekking. So it's definitely on my list to do one of these days. Maybe not this trip, but definitely in the future. I knew I was going to be back, even after only a month here, and now after spending 7 months, like part of me doesn't know if I'm leaving, but also I know if I do leave, I'm gonna be back. Yeah. After we left KL, I realized I left my towel, my like camping, like quick dry towel, and I left it at Nat's place. Believe it or not, he moved. He did all the moving stuff for a while, and shortly before I came in January, he moved into a new apartment in KL still. And when I asked, hey, I'm flying into KL late at night, can I crash at your place? Get accustomed to the time zone, blah, 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 all that. He's like, sure, totally. And so got to crash at his place. And sure enough, he hung on to the towel for 7 months. And I actually didn't pack a towel at the start of this trip. So I bought a towel at this point because it's a little different having a real towel versus a camping quick dry towel, but that towel has definitely come in handy during this trip. So no doubt I was already connected to people in 3 cities here, and if I got in too much trouble, at least my mom will be able to sleep at night knowing I got some local people to back me up. And bail me out, maybe, if I'm lucky. So the possibility to be even more connected was a huge draw too. There's this thing called Workaway. It's a worldwide volunteer platform. It's basically Craigslist for volunteer opportunities. You pay to be a part of it, and it's kind of like a community, but I mean, not really. It's one of those like wannabe communities, but doesn't really take off. But it's great. There's thousands of opportunities on there, and just in Malaysia, there's over 200 active hosts. There's a couple old postings that they're on the automatic renewal, like for their profile, and they haven't updated it in forever. So those people aren't good opportunities, or they won't message you back. But everything on this list, it's from working a guest house, cleaning, manning the front desk, working on a boat or yacht, which I took part in for a week here, and then taking care of kids with a local family or a daycare / school or after school program. So many possibilities. I know. I've sold you guys on making Malaysia your next destination. Seriously, if you have any questions, or if I missed something, comment below, send me a message somehow. Let's chat about it. Maybe I can redo this video and we can make it right. And yeah, that guy Nat, he was actually the friend that I helped with the film shoot that I talked about in my last video earlier this week. Wild, right? It's so weird. Let's see, how much time do I have left? Oh my gosh, already 15 minutes. Okay, big surprise. I am not perfect, but as you can see, not wearing my glasses because of reflection off the screen, and it is nighttime now. So I just got done editing the video, and I realized I actually stopped my video when I checked to see how much time was left. Okay, so I was just about to finish up by talking about my day, which, I was kind of hoping to be asleep already at this time, but editing just made me a little more awake, I guess. But now I get to show you the background. That this is the exact same background as I had for the last 15 minutes of the video that you watched. And this is basically the night skyline of KL from a far distance, of course. So let's see if I can point good. So these are the Petronas Twin Towers, and then right here is the KL Tower. So it's similar to, like, imagine like the Space Needle, just not as tall. Still pretty tall. But this is kind of the night skyline. So sorry about that. Pardon the interruption, little break or whatever. So my day today. It started nice and early, 5:45 a.m. Took one of the first trains down to the main part of KL to then switch lines of the rails to one of the sky trains. It's the LRT. Um, of course, that means nothing to you, but just another public transportation method here in KL. And I went to the blood bank and donated blood platelets for the second time now. I did it last month, and it all went smoothly. And then they called me up this week and said I could come in and donate some more. So I did that this morning, and then a couple hours later, came back and then did the afternoon daycare shift for the five boys. I managed them. I oversaw them for 4 hours, and taught a mini overview lesson of our solar system, which was fun, trying to get them to pronounce Saturn and Earth and Mars, and I guess those aren't too hard of words, but Saturn and Jupiter. It's cute. They're learning. It's fun, and then learning how to teach them English as a second language. I have no professional teaching, but I speak English, so I guess that's good enough. But as you could see during the video, the sun was going down, and as you can see now, it's 8:30 p.m. right now as I'm recording this, and I'm going to finish editing this, add words that you'll read. So then I'm gonna go to sleep and then sleep in tomorrow because it's Saturday, and maybe get started on a new video for you guys. And I don't have a question figured out yet, so if you comment within the next day or two a good question, we'll see what happens. Okay, until then, it's about time I go to sleep. Okay, be safe.